One of the many times that I have been so proud to be a Unitarian Universalist was when I participated in a coming out party at my UU congregation. This was about 10 years ago. A member who had been a bastion of the church had left a note at the doorstep of a notable lesbian couple in the church asking to speak to them. At age 62, he had decided it was time to come out as gay. He had grown up in a small conservative town in the 50s, in a religious family, with no internet or mention of homosexuality, and he just thought he was different, but didn't know how or why. He had married a woman and they had a wonderful marriage, and she supported him as he came to understanding about himself. They had two wonderful children and several grandchildren. His wife died several years before. He had mourned and decided it was time. And he was asking the lesbians, exactly how do you do this coming out thing? He was terrified and nervous and had no idea what to do. Well, they did. They called all of the other LGBTQ people in the congregation, and we threw a heck of a party. We sent out invitations to folks in the congregation telling them it was a coming out party. We decorated the fellowship hall with rainbows of every kind. We wore colorful outfits and boas and made rainbow cake and cookies and gay punch, and there were sparkles everywhere. People came to the event with high spirits, with great excitement, and they had no idea who the party was for. And when the time was right, with the Diana Ross's I'm Coming Out song over the loudspeakers, he came out from his hiding place, a closet, of course. I loved our congregation because he was embraced with squeals and hugs and kisses and dancing and joy. We celebrated his authentic self and his bravery, and we welcomed him into the queer community with all of the kitsch and frivolity that we could muster. It was the kind of coming out that I wish every single person could have. If you did not know by now, I am a proud member of the LGBTQ community. In my life, I have come out as bisexual, and I have come out as lesbian, and I have come out as queer. And although I know that queer has a negative connotation for some, I love that many of our younger generations have reclaimed that word to represent a wide range of people who don't fit squarely in the heterosexual, cisgendered box that society once told us we had to fit into. I am proud to be a queer woman, to love who I love, to express my gender and my sexual orientation as it is comfortable for me. It has not always been easy for me, but it has been far easier for me than it has been for many. I am out and proud because I do not believe that I can preach about the worth and dignity of all of you unless I see my own as fully worthy and fully beautiful. I am out because I am proud of my wife and I love to show her off. I am out because it shows our children that they can be whoever they want to be, love whoever they want, express themselves however they want. I have specific coming out stories to my family, but I want to be clear on this. I come out on a daily basis, especially as someone who walks through the world as a white woman who passes for straight. It is assumed that I'm straight unless I say otherwise. And as a female queer minister, it raises eyebrows all the time. There are many who don't believe women should be ministers. But when I mention my wife or that I'm part of the LGBTQ community, well, let's just say it's fun to watch their expressions. And to put a very fine point on it, the most discrimination I have ever received has been at the hands of other religious professionals. Coming out is a political statement. It says to the world, I am here. You cannot overlook me. You cannot say that you like me, but then carve out this part of me and say, well, except for that part. You cannot admire how I look at my wife, but then support someone for political office who wants to take away our right to be legally married. Coming out is a political statement because I lived in Orlando, Florida, and worked as a chaplain in the hospital system where victims of the Pulse Massacre were being treated in the summer of 2016. The club that was a sanctuary to my community became a house of horror, and 49 of our young, mostly brown siblings died, and dozens more were injured and scarred for life. I come out because I can, on behalf of my family members who couldn't, on behalf of centuries when people couldn't, and on behalf of those who still can't. And just to be very clear, there are many people who still can't. It will risk their jobs, their homes, and even their lives. It is an act of bravery to come out, but for some, it is a risk that is not worth it, or not worth it yet. So for those of us who can, we must. The religious landscape is still not a safe place for queer folks. Many, many LGBTQ people have been told by the church and their family that they were flawed, damaged, unwelcome, or unworthy by their church or by their family who was influenced by the church. The greatest harms to this community have come at the voice of religion. There are many people who will never step into a church again because the moral injury that was done to them was so severe that trust will not again be regained. And Unitarian Universalism is different. We are one of the denominations that is open and welcoming to our queer siblings and has been for decades, but only decades. And I don't want us to just congratulate ourselves and say our work is done. It is not done in our denomination, and it is not done in our UUCP community. Microaggressions still happen to our LGBTQ folks. Yes, even at UUCP. When we single them out for their queerness, when we ask them to be tokens in a group, when we do not use their correct pronouns, when we do not explicitly say that they are welcome in our groups, we are not living up to the vision that we have to be radically inclusive. This is why we introduce ourselves and use our pronouns, as you saw some of our beloved community members do this. When we all do this, it is not a weight then on the person who uses different pronouns than what a person may expect. They don't have to come out every single time they want to be referenced as their full selves. This is a loving, inclusive way to say, I see the fullness of you. It is a way to say, you don't need to correct me, or worse, be called something that goes against who you are in order to belong in this community. For some of you, I know this still takes a bit of getting used to, and that's okay. We forget and we mess up. I do too. That's all right as well. A little tip, I practice with animals. I practice calling them they or ze or we. It makes it easier to practice and then more able to do it when you do it with humans. You can mess up. It's all right. I have faith in you. And I want you to know that I'm also here for you if you want to get more comfortable with it or want to explore it with me. It's an act of love and it's a statement of who we are. And it is a gift we can gleefully give to all of us. Here at UUCP, we are undertaking a renewal welcoming program. So you see in the 1980s and 90s, when the word welcoming became a code word for lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, the Unitarian Universalist Association launched a welcoming congregation program to help us learn how to undo homophobia and later transphobia in our hearts and in our minds, in our congregations, and in our communities. UUCP was one of those congregations, and we are an official welcoming congregation. The spiritual practice of welcoming is a very important one to our faith community. But we cannot do a program 30 years ago and say, there, we've checked the box, we're done. No, being a welcoming community is an evolving process. We need to continue to be more welcoming. And we have new people coming into our community all the time. And we must make sure that everyone understands what we mean when we say welcoming. And that welcoming means something bigger every time that we say it. We must always challenge ourselves to be better at it. So this year, we are starting with the annual Welcoming Renewal Program. It means that we will renew our commitment that we made when we became an official welcoming congregation, that we'll have 2 worship services on LGBTQ issues. This is one of them. We will recognize at least 6 LGBTQ days of observance, like National Coming Out Day, like Transgender Day of Remembrance, or Bisexual Visibility Day, for example. We will offer a welcoming religious education program through our children's ministries, and we will do some kind of social justice outreach, education, or community involvement. We have already reached out to Trans Queer Pueblo, an amazing organization of queer, mostly transgender, mostly immigrant, many undocumented people here in Phoenix who are doing great work to advocate for their rights. They're going to talk to us about the problematic issues of Phoenix Pride. And particularly how it's not been welcoming to our LGBTQ people of color. We hope to have that balance of understanding the layers of how we can be proud and even march in a parade when we get to have a parade someday, but also understand the challenges that lie within the system. We will do some version of this every year. I would love some help in this, some people who would like to work on the team to make this possible, so it is work that the entire congregation is proudly moving forward, not just me. Please let me know if you are interested. So coming out, it is important. It is life-saving for so many who have been told that this part of them is unholy and unworthy. It is a statement of integration and also one of defiance. It is a statement that demands that people see the beautiful rainbow of who we are. Coming out is a uniquely LGBTQ experience, but it doesn't have to relate only to this community. I want you all to think about the things that you've come out as. or things that have been difficult to say, or that aren't accepted as a norm. For example, for some people, coming out as a divorced person is very painful. For some, coming out as a parent who has lost a child is a recurringly painful but also validating act. For some, coming out as someone who has an addiction is a humbling but empowering experience. And for some, coming out as someone who needs financial or emotional help is a way to invite community into your life. So, how are the ways that you have or you can come out? How can you live your most authentic and truthful life? Let me make it even more granular and relevant right now. How many of you are afraid of putting political signs in your yard because it means you'll be coming out in one way or another? Yesterday, we put markers all over our windows with all of our signs about voting, and we drove to the polls. And as we were leaving, we were like, oh, wait, now we're a parade of one, and all of our signs are still on our window. And I said to Karen, this is what we're talking about tomorrow. How does it feel to be more vulnerable and also to stand up for what you believe? And remember, not everyone can come out. But are you hiding yourself because you can't, or because it is a risk? And how much of a risk is it really? And what are the implications of staying hidden? For those of you who have come out, I am so proud of you. I am proud of you for being your full self. For those of you who can't come out, I send you all of my support and love. For those of you who love those who have come out, thank you for being beloved community. We love in solidarity. Our love is welcoming, and we will keep working until every place of worship is safe, every relationship, every way of expressing yourself, every way of being seen is holy and beautiful. So might it be for every single one of us.